This episode contains mature content and includes discussion of miscarriage and child loss. Viewer discretion is advised.
If you've been through something unthinkable, if you've ever been told not to share your story, to suck it up, buttercup, or thought, no one will believe me anyway, if you're still here fighting to figure out what comes next, then you have a story the world needs to hear, and we want to be the ones to help you share it. My name is Sam,
My name is Joe.
and we are Project Tell Your Story. All right, Joe.
Hello.
Hello. You are my very first interview. So that's exciting. How do you feel about that?
I'm excited. I mean, of course, I'm a little bit nervous because I am sharing something that's like very personal, but I'm excited. Like, I feel like this is going to be really good.
Okay, so you said excited. So on a scale ranging from calm to some anxiety to extremely anxious, how do you feel about actually sharing your story? Not just being on a podcast, but actually sharing this content.
I feel pretty calm about like the sharing the story part just because like it's not really something that I've been like super private about in my life. I just feel like I've been shut down a lot because people are like, "Oh yeah, like that sucks. I'm sorry." I feel like either people don't know what to say or they're like, "Uh, I guess maybe they just don't know what to say." But sometimes they say mean things. So
Do you feel any worry or concern that more mean things are going to come out of that?
honestly, no. Just because I think that sometimes people don't understand that what they are saying is hurtful. And so I'm kind of hoping that being able to come out and be like, hey, these are some of the things that were said to me. This is how I felt about it. This is what I was going through. It kind of sheds a light for people to be like, oh, wow, I have said those things to somebody before, but I didn't even realize how harsh that was. And if it doesn't have that effect and if people still have more mean things to say, then I don't know, maybe they're just unhappy with their lives.
Maybe they're just mean people.
Yeah, I guess
Yeah, it says more about them than you. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, that's good because that's what we want to do here, right? Like Project Tell Your Story is all about fostering a community and bringing awareness to people. Not everyone reacts the same to different situations. And so there's no normal reaction to a trauma. So if you don't
Yeah.
react the way that I thought, then you must be crazy or something. So I think that's really good that you feel ready to like, no, let's share not only your story, but also getting it out there to share for awareness for other people. Like, this is maybe how you should treat someone going through this.
Yeah. I also hope that it like gives other people who have gone through the same thing that I've gone through, kind of gives them a little bit of hope that one, there is a light at the end of the tunnel if you're still in that dark place. And also like no, you don't deserve to be talked to this way or hushed or whatever it is that is happening because you deserve to be able to put your feelings out there and feel the way that you feel without being criticized.
I love that. So now, before we get into the topic of what you're going to talk about in your story, first I want to have you tell us a little bit about yourself. I mean, I know you very well, but let the audience get to know you. Tell us about what do you do? What do you do for work? Where are you at in this point in your life?
Yeah, so I'm Joe. I'm a nurse. I live in southern Utah. I'm married. I have two dogs and yeah, we're having a baby, so that's exciting. But
That's so
that's pretty much
exciting.
me.
How comfortable do you feel about talking about where you are in your pregnancy right now?
Pretty comfortable. I mean, I love talking about my baby and my pregnancy. So I'm 18 weeks along, so we're almost halfway, which is crazy.
Oh my God. As someone
Yeah.
who is not going through that, I'm glad you clarified. You're like 18 weeks means, and I'm like 18 weeks, cool.
Because you're,
Well,
like, counting on your
halfway.
fingers. How many is 18?
Yeah, counts on fingers. Pause.
Yeah, it's like I think it's, like, 4 a little over 4 months. So, 2nd trimester, a little over 4 months for anybody who doesn't know.
That's great. And how are you feeling? Like, are you sick a lot?
My 1st trimester, I was sick every single day, all day long, and it was horrible, but yeah, now I feel really good. I have all my energy, well, not all my energy back, I take lots of naps, but I have some of my energy back, and I'm not hugging the toilet all day long, so that's a plus.
That is exciting. Also, it just occurred to me that if you haven't seen our like intro episode and you're like, how does Sam know Joe so well? You and I are sisters. I don't think we really look it. I don't know. I always think we look different, but look, we came from the same womb,
Not at the same time.
not at the same time. Not the same time. All right. Who's the person right now that you're like closest to in your life?
I think probably my husband.
How do you think he would describe Joe?
Hmm, that's a good question. I feel like probably just loud. He
Loud.
I think he would say loud and talkative. Our relationship works so well because all I do is talk, and he's a really good listener, so
That's so funny. I love
yeah.
that. All right, we got to know Joe in a nutshell right there. Very happy with that.
See, hopefully you'll see my personality come out on the podcast. You're gonna be like, "Joe, this is supposed to be serious. Why are you making jokes and being loud?" I'm like, "I know how to be serious, guys. It's gonna be fine."
Good, because I think you're going to bring a lot to this too. Of like, I think I'm very much a serious person, and you're going to be the one that's like, look, let's laugh for a minute. So I think that's good. Now let's talk really about your story and what brought you here today to this podcast, other than you're the co-host. So this is your story. It's not anyone else's. And because of that, we're going to be changing names of anyone you mention who isn't on this interview. And for our listeners, any names you hear from this podcast moving forward will be pseudonyms, or we'll just be referring to people by their title, like my mom, my husband, my neighbor, etc. So, are you comfortable with that?
Yeah, sounds great.
Great. Okay, I'd love for you to take us back to kind of help us understand what you went through. You talked a little bit about this thing, this thing, this thing. So, can you tell us what this thing is that brought you here today and what you're here to talk about?
Yeah, so obviously we just established that I am pregnant. I am a little over 4 months. So a little over 4 months ago, I actually had a miscarriage, and well, it was probably like a little over 5 months because we had like a month in between, but about 5 months ago, I had a miscarriage, and it was actually my 2nd miscarriage, and I feel like it was really hard because one thing that I feel like was the hardest for me was the fact that when I called the doctor to be like, "Hey, I had a positive pregnancy test, like, what do I do?" You know? They were like, "Okay, is this your first pregnancy?" And I was like, "No, I've had a previous miscarriage," but it had been several years. And so the doctor was, or not the doctor, but like the nurse that I talked to, she was basically like, "Well, since it had been so long since your last miscarriage, then it's almost like your body is like pregnant again for the first time. So we're just gonna like pretend like that didn't happen." She didn't say pretend like that didn't happen, but that's like basically the gist. Um, and so she's like, "We'll just kind of follow routine and we'll see you at 8 weeks for your first appointment." And which to me is crazy because granted I'm a nurse and so I do know a little bit about, I'm supposed to be taking prenatals, what I am and not supposed to eat, just kind of the things that I'm supposed to be doing to help my baby grow. But also the first trimester is one of the most crucial. So it was wild to me that they were like, "Oh, we're not going to see you for 8 weeks." And it kind of made me feel like if your baby is still alive, then we'll take you. So,
Oh my God, yeah.
yeah, we actually never made it to that 8-week appointment. So, yeah. That's what I'm here to talk about, the trauma that all of that caused.
That's a lot. So tell us kind of about where you were in that time. Were you guys, was that a surprise? Was that something that you guys were like, no, this is what we want right now? What was kind of the surrounding that leading up to just finding out you were pregnant?
Yeah, so, I have had an IUD for, like, the last couple years before this, and I for, like, 3 months, I was just having a lot of pain, a lot of cramping, a lot of heavy bleeding, and I dealt with it for 3 months, and then I was like, "I can't do this anymore, like, something is wrong." So I went to the doctor, and they did an ultrasound and checked everything, and my IUD had implanted into my cervix, and so they were like, "We need to take this out," you know? And they had asked me, they're like, "When we take it out, do you want us to put a new one back in?" Well, for anybody who has an IUD, it is the worst thing in the entire world, so I was like, "Absolutely not. Do not put that back in me." So we took it out, and then that was in February, like the very end of February, beginning of March. Well, I'm gonna try really hard to remember timeline, but I feel like it just all kind of blurs together. But anyways, we our plan was to wait until 2026 to start trying to get pregnant, to take out my IUD, to start trying to get pregnant, all of that. But then obviously we had to take the IUD out a year early. And so we're like, well, whatever happens is meant to be. Instantly got pregnant. I actually found out at work because I was talking to my coworker and I was telling her how I was feeling, and she was like, "Are you pregnant?" And I was like, "Uh, I mean, it's possible, but I have no idea." So then I took a test and I was pregnant, and so my coworkers were actually the first one to know because I came out of the bathroom and I was like having a panic attack. I was like, "What am I gonna do? How am I gonna tell my husband?" Like, we weren't ready for this, we weren't prepared for this, so that was really crazy.
Yeah, that sounds so overwhelming too to be like, "Oh my gosh, I don't know what kind of test you took if it's like, "Oh my gosh, there's 2 lines," or if like it just said the word pregnant, but whatever that came out as, you're like, "Oh my gosh, that's a positive." So I'd imagine that's
Yeah.
a lot a lot of overwhelming things. That's so funny too to be like, I mean, not impossible, but like probably not, right? I'm sure that
Yeah.
was kind of the idea going and peeing on the stick was like, I mean, it's not gonna come back positive. We're just doing this to make me feel better.
Yeah, seriously, especially because it was so fast. Like, a couple weeks, maybe? Like, it was
Wow.
so fast.
Okay. So you're working as a nurse, you're newly married, and you're like, we're doing the thing. How did you tell your husband?
So, I had taken the test at, like, noon, and I work 12-hour shifts, so I didn't even get off work until, like, 6:30ish. So, I
Oh my
had to
gosh.
spend yeah, the entire rest of the day being like, "What am I gonna do?" And, like, I didn't wanna tell a bunch of people before I told my husband. And so I had told, like, my 2 closest work friends, because one of them supplied me with the test, so of course I had to tell her. And then the other one, she's also, like we're like a little trio, we're all friends. And so I told the 2 of them, and after work, I went to Smith's and I got, like, a cute little onesie, and I put it in a little box with, like, some, like, little, like, frilly paper and, like, the stuff you put in, like, your Easter baskets. And then I just put the test on there, and the test was the one at the word, so it said pregnant.
Oh.
Yeah, and then I, like, closed it all up, and it was so cute, and then I took a video of my husband opening it, and I was like, "Hey, I got you a present, like, come and open this." So I hand it to him, and he opens it up, and he just looks at it and, like, looks at me, and he's just like, "Are you serious right now?" Like, he thought I was pranking him, and I'm like, "Dude, I am, like, as surprised as you are, but this is 100% real."
I am as surprised as you are.
Yeah.
What did you do after you told him? Like, who else did you share that story with?
So, for a little while, it was just the 2 of us. We decided that we wanted to wait just, like, a little bit, before we told our families, and we wanted to do, like, a cute little, like, "Oh, we're pregnant," you know? And so we were gonna go get I guess it was, like, less than a week that we, like, told somebody, but we were going to dinner with his mom and his brother, and, we were gonna go and get, like, a cute little mug that says, like, grandma or something like that because also that would have been the first grandbaby on both sides, so we were like, "Oh, like, our families are gonna be so excited." So we ended up going to dinner with my in-laws, and while we were there, we went to a brewery, which is hilarious. And especially because, like, I'm a drinker, like, I'm not crazy by any means, but, like, when we go out to dinner, I like to have a drink. And so we go to this brewery, and everyone's, like, getting drinks, everyone's, like, excited about all the stuff, and I'm like, "Oh, can I just get a water with lemon?" And and
Instantly, this is a flag. Out
yeah, well,
of
my
the norm.
mother-in-law seriously, my mother-in-law was like, you're seriously not drinking? Like, we came to the brewery, you're not even gonna try something?" And I was just like, "No, like, I don't really like beer, like, oh, I'm not gonna try anything." And, then, like, while we were sitting there, my husband was like, "Yeah, she's not drinking because, like" oh, no, actually, he was like, "I bet you're all wondering why we gathered you for dinner." And then his mom was literally like, "Oh my god, I knew it, you're pregnant." So
Wait, so
and
was
we're
the
like,
plan to tell
"What?"
them at the dinner?
We had, like, kind of talked about it beforehand because I was like, "I wanna tell everybody. I wanna boast it from the rooftops," I was so excited because I've always wanted to be a mom my entire life. That's all I've ever wanted to be is a mom. But he was a little more hesitant because he's like, "Well, like, maybe we should wait till, like, we have the first ultrasound, till we make sure everything's okay." And I was like, "Hell no, I don't wanna wait, like, I wanna tell everybody." So while we were at dinner, I was, like, kicking him under the table and, like, giving him, like, looks like, "We need to tell them, like, if you don't tell them right now, I'm gonna tell them." So yeah, so then, he said that, and then my mother-in-law was like, "Oh my god, like, I totally knew it, you're pregnant." And so we, like, all hugged, and they're like, "Congratulations," and then they asked, like, how far along we were and all, like, the normal questions. Yeah, it was kinda awkward because, like, we were in, like, the middle of this brewery restaurant, and it's just like an open warehouse, and so we're, like, right in the middle, and everyone's, like, hugging me and cheering, and people are, like, looking over. They probably thought we had, like, just gotten engaged or something, and I'm like, "No, nope, already got the ring, now I got the baby," you know?
In the middle of the alcohol consumption.
Yeah. Right in the middle of the brewery, they're making beer all around us.
Time to announce the baby. That's so
Yeah.
cool. So then kind of telling everyone else, like, how did other people find out you're pregnant?
Oh, yeah, I forgot that I was supposed to share the rest of that.
You're
Um,
good.
so I don't think I ever actually, like, posted anything on social media, but, I mean, as you know, our younger sister was getting married, and so I had actually told her when we went when we traveled back home to do, her bridal shower, I think, and my husband didn't come with me, and so I wanted to tell my parents or our parents at the bridal shower, but he wanted to be there, and so I was like, "We'll have to wait." So I told the other sister and I was like, "Hey, do you want me to wait until after your wedding? Like, I don't want this to take away from your wedding." And she was like, "Oh, hell no. Like, I'm so excited. Let's tell everybody." So then a couple days after we got home from the bridal shower, I had that sister text everybody in the family, like, "Hey, we need to have an emergency wedding meeting. Everybody needs to get on FaceTime." So we like all get on FaceTime and everyone's like, "What's going on? Like, why do we need to have an emergency wedding meeting? Like, what is this about?" And she goes, "Joe, like, go ahead and tell everybody what's going on." And then my husband and I like come in the screen and we're like, "Yeah, we're having a baby." And actually our dad almost crashed his vehicle because he was driving home off the mountain on FaceTime. And he was like, "I almost just crashed my truck. I'm so excited." So it
Yes.
was really cute. It was so cute.
I love that. I'm literally tearing up right now. No joke. So let me just like wide eye, try to blink it. Because I
Oh,
remember how excited I was. And I was the same thing. Like I'm getting these messages and I'm at work and they're like, "We need to have a meeting. When is everyone available?" And I'm like, "I am at work. I cannot FaceTime you people. Just text me." I think all of us were a little bit, besides you, but like the rest of us were a little bit perturbed. What is this? And I like get in my car and I put my little phone up on the phone stand that you can use for directions. And I'm like, all right, I'm FaceTiming you guys, but I'm gonna be driving because I want to go home. So I'm backing out of the parking spot, and I had a similar reaction to dad. I'm backing out of my parking spot, and you're like, "We're pregnant," and I just slammed on my brakes, and I was like, "What?
You're like, "Oh my gosh, this has nothing to do with the wedding."
This is amazing!" So I remember I cried because it's exciting, a baby.
I know, and the first
The
one.
first one. Okay. So then you're in the midst of it. You're full blown in the joy of being pregnant. Everybody in kind of your close circle knows. So at what point did that change from, oh my gosh, we're so happy and we're pregnant to like, oh, something might be wrong?
Yeah. So it was actually like 2 days after we told our family. And granted, ever since we found out that we were pregnant, I was just terrified because I'd already had a miscarriage once. My doctor didn't want to see me until 8 weeks, which is like normal, but it's stupid. And I just had this anxiety like the whole pregnancy. And I remember like every single time I would talk to anybody about it, they would always be like, "Don't put that out into the universe. We need good vibes. We need good vibes." And so it was like I was like trying to have these good vibes because I didn't want to like have bad karma, whatever. And so I'm constantly like just having all this anxiety that I felt like I can't really talk to anybody about. And then we were at my in-laws' house and I went to the bathroom and there was this tissue type stuff that was like in the toilet. And I took a picture and I showed my mother-in-law and I was like, "Is this normal? Like what is this?" And she was like, "I don't know, like it could just be, like some discharge, it could just be a little bit of the implantation bleeding, it could be anything." And I was like, "Okay." But I felt like something was wrong. And I know that people listening now are probably like, "Oh yeah, you felt like it was wrong because now it didn't work out." But honestly, like during this while this was happening, I always felt like something was wrong. So I went to work and then the next day, one of my close friends at work, one of my close coworkers, she has a couple kids. And so I was like constantly asking her questions like, "Is this normal? Like, what is this? What is that?" And while I was at work, I just like had this massive cramp. I'd had small little cramps throughout the day, and my friend, she was like, "Yeah, a little bit of cramping is normal because it's your body just getting used to all the changes and everything happening." I was like, "Okay." So then I was walking and I had this massive cramp. Like I was like doubled over. And I was like, "Oh, that can't be normal." And then after it passed, I was like, "Okay." I just went about my day and kept working. And then all of a sudden, I felt my underwear was wet. And so I went to the bathroom and I had a little bit of blood. And so then I went and I told my friend, I was like, "Hey, I have a little bit of blood." And she's like, "Well, since you had that really bad cramp and now you're having bleeding, you should probably call the doctor." So I called and I talked to just the nurse that's on call, and she was like asking me all these questions and, like, "How much are you bleeding? Are you like having any pain? Are you having any back pain, any cramping, all those things?" And so I explained the situation to her. And at the time, it was just kind of a spotting bleeding. And so it's like, "Oh," and she even told me sometimes a spotting bleeding can be normal. And she's like, "Sometimes cramping can be normal. So, like, let's just wait it out and let us know if it gets worse." So I was like, "Okay." So I waited out, and literally by the end of the day, like, I think this happened at like 2 p.m. By the end of the day, I was like full on bleeding, like a period.
Oh no.
Yeah. And I called the doctor and I was like, "Hey, it got worse. Like, I'm like full on bleeding, like a period." And so then the nurse was like, "Okay, like we're gonna have you come in and do some blood work." So it was like 4:30 at this time, so it had only been 2.5 hours. So she's like, "Why don't you come in right now?" And I was at work and I don't get off till 6. And so I went into one of my manager's office and I told her what was going on, and she was like, "I'll cover your patients, like you go get your blood work done." So I left work and I called my husband and I was like bawling. I'm like walking through the parking lot. I can't even tell him what's going on because I'm crying so hard. And I'm like, I'm on my way to the hospital. I have to go get my blood drawn. I'm bleeding. So he jumps in the truck, meets me at the hospital. I'm sitting in the lab waiting room in the middle of the hospital bawling. And so they call me back. I go get my blood drawn. They wanted to check my HCG levels. And like for anybody who doesn't know how that works, so you get it drawn one time and then I think it's 48 hours later, you get it drawn again. And if it's a healthy, viable pregnancy, then in that 48 hours and like your numbers should double or more. So I went and at this point I was 5 weeks pregnant. And I go in, I get my blood drawn, and then like by the end of the day that day, I'd gotten my results back and they were 25, which does not line up with being 5 weeks pregnant. Like it was way too low for 5 weeks. Um, and I was still trying to be hopeful. So I was like, maybe I'm just not as far along as they thought. Like I haven't been checked up. The only the only thing that we're going on is like my last period. Like maybe everything's fine. I'm just not as far along as I thought. Um, and I remember that night my mother-in-law brought us over dinner and we had invited her to stay and eat with us. So we're sitting at the table and I was explaining all that to her like, "Oh yeah, I just don't think I'm as far along as they think I am." And I could tell that she was like trying so hard to be supportive, but like everybody knew. Like at that point we all knew.
Oh my God.
So, yeah, and then um I just for the next 48 hours I couldn't function. I called out from work. I just was panicking all the time. I was like, it has to be okay. Like I've wanted this my entire life. Like I can't like why like I'm supposed to be able to do this. Why is this happening? So then after the 48 hours I went and got my blood drawn again, went home, and my husband was taking a nap on the couch and I was like almost asleep and then I just had a feeling to like check my lab results. So I pulled up my phone, I checked my lab results and they had gone from 25 to 5, which
Oh,
at that point like barely even shows up positive on a pregnancy test anymore. So, and I lost it. Even though I had already known deep down the confirmation of that lab result and seeing like it's over. And it wasn't even like oh, we can come back from this. It was over. And I just lost it. Woke my husband up. He like grabs me and is holding me, and I'm just sobbing, uncontrollably sobbing. And I was like, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Like, do you still love me even though like I lost our baby? Like, I'm so sorry. And of course, my husband's the best. He's like, "Of course I still love you. This isn't your fault. It's going to be okay. We're going to get this figured out." And I was a mess.
oh my God. I'm a mess. I'm like, give me a minute. Oh my gosh. Whew. What's funny is I was doing my makeup this morning and I was like, should I not do makeup? What if I cry? And I was like, oh my gosh, Sam, you're not the one telling the story. You're not going to cry. I should know better. I thought myself.
Actually, I was actually looking around before I started telling my story and I was like, I don't have tissues in here. Worst comes to worst, I might have to open up a diaper and just start labbing.
Rookie mistake. Oh my gosh. Yeah, no, that that sounds indescribable. That like amount of pain.
Yeah. Yeah, it was horrible. It's hard because I can't even really like put into words just the heartbreak and the emptiness that I was feeling. And then after that, I was still bleeding. And I had talked to the nurse. She'd called me and was like, I'm so sorry. These were your results. This means that it confirmed that you're having a miscarriage. And even like my doctor called me. So this whole time I'd been corresponding with the nurse, but my doctor called me and I didn't answer because I couldn't talk to anybody. But he left me a voicemail and he was like, I just want to say I am so sorry. He's like, this is never easy and like this is never something that I wish on anybody. So like please let us know if you need anything. Like reach out. We have resources. And then he was so on top of it because he had known that I had had a miscarriage before, which kind of bothers me about like our medical, just like medical whatever, and women's health especially, that they had known that I had had a previous miscarriage and now I have a second one and I'm just completely shattered. Um, and so now they're like, "Oh, we want to run all these tests," which is good. It's good that they wanted to run all the tests, but I'm like, maybe we should have run all the tests beforehand, you know? So,
Why are
yeah.
we waiting for two tragedies before we take me and my health and my body seriously? And I like how you said that like I recognize my doctor was super on top of it. He made me feel, he called me, he left me a message, he made me feel like I was important, like my health was going to be taken seriously from this point forward. And that also doesn't dismiss the fact that you're like, but what happened before that? It blows my mind the lack of knowledge, the lack of care in a lot of cases that goes into women, especially with pregnancies. So many women in their lifetime are going to make the choice to have a baby or are going to accidentally, right, be pregnant. At some point, and almost every single person with a uterus is going to have a period. That's so much of your population. That is
Yeah.
so many people. How are we not investing more resources and time? We're out there in the news and in the media trying to convince women to be pregnant, but we're not giving you like 6 weeks. We won't see you till 6 weeks. Is that what they told you? Like, we won't be seeing you till 6 weeks?
8 weeks.
8 weeks. Okay. That even more blows my mind. I was thinking six because a lot of states even are like, oh, like our abortion ban, right? That's not what we're talking about in this episode, but just for the picture of it, you can't get an abortion after 6 weeks. Some women don't even know they're pregnant then. And isn't that crazy that you happen to know you were pregnant, but the doctors wouldn't even consider you technically pregnant enough to be seen for 2 more weeks after that? That blows my mind. How are we not investing? That test pops, you should have had resources, and it blows my mind that we don't.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. So you've shared about how you feel, like absolutely, you said absolutely heartbroken, right? And sobbed, and then you talked about your husband. So what did that look like for you two as a couple going through that loss?
So I know that he was heartbroken as well. He was sad, he was heartbroken, he was confused. Like he was going through all of these feelings as well, but he was trying so hard to be strong for me because I was absolutely unconsolable. I was a mess every single day. Every single day I cried. Every single day, like not just like teared up and cried, like I was like uncontrollably sobbing. And so he was just constantly like being my rock, just like being that support system, being that person that was here for me. But I almost felt like sometimes it was hard because I felt alone and I felt like maybe he is not as sad as I am. And we've talked about it a lot, and that's not the case. Like he was, you know, so heartbroken as well. I mean, granted, he didn't go through the exact same thing that I did because like I was the one that every single time I went to the bathroom, I had to watch everything bleed out, for a week. I bled for a week. And it was just a constant reminder every single time I went to the bathroom, every single time I felt like my pad was full, every single time I walked into our guest room that we were going to turn into a nursery, every single time I saw a pregnant woman or a baby or, just anything like that. It was like constant reminders of like what I had lost. And I just remember every single day telling him, like, I just want to be a mom. Like, I'm not a mommy anymore and I just want to be a mom. And after that, he had wanted to go back to our original plan of like waiting until next year. And I sat him down and I was like, look, I know that this was our original plan, and I know that this, like, last pregnancy was kind of unexpected, but I cannot go back. Like, I do not know how to go back to a world where I'm not a mom. Even
Wow.
though, like, yeah, like, I had not met this baby. I was only 5 weeks pregnant. Like, I was very, 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 um, like, I was not far along at all. But it was just knowing that, like, this this baby that I have been praying for my entire life, this baby that I spent my whole life finding, the perfect man, making sure that I had an education to support this baby, making sure that I had good work ethic, that I was mentally stable, that I had like done the work that I needed to do to make myself ready to be a mom, all for this baby that I lost. And I was like, I don't know how to go back to a world where I am not a mom. And I told him, I was like, if that's our plan, like if that's, you know, God's plan for us that we don't have a baby until next year, then like it is the way it is. But I cannot like not try.
Mm.
And I think that was hard for him because he was like, well, we have these trips planned. We have these things that we're wanting to do. This was so unexpected. If we wait a little bit longer, then we could save up money and buy a house, all these things. And I was like, I can't do it. I just can't do it. And he had actually told me after all of this happened, when we did get pregnant again, and I wanted immediately to tell everybody again. And he was really hesitant and he was like, it was really hard for me to lose our baby and it was really hard for me to like not be a dad anymore. And he's like, but the hardest part was having to watch you go through what you went through. And he's like, you say that you can't go back to a world where you can't, or like you're not a mom anymore. And he's like, I can't watch you go through that again. He's like, yeah. And my husband's been through a lot in his life. Like, he's been through a lot of shit. And he was like, watching you go through that, just seeing how broken you were, he's like, I can't go through that again. Like, I cannot see you like that again. And he felt so helpless.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that you were inconsolable for a few days after that, and that, or I guess for a while after that, and all your triggers of seeing pregnant women and babies, and especially going to the bathroom. You can avoid pregnant women and babies. You can't avoid the bathroom, and seeing that literally leave your body. And I can only imagine how absolutely painful emotionally that was. What do you think was the most difficult part, like the day to day kind of coming out of that? What was the most difficult part for you?
I think for me, the most difficult part was everyone else's expectations for how I was supposed to be feeling.
Mm.
Because it was constantly like, oh, you're still sad, you know? And even if people didn't actually feel that way, I think it was really hard for me to constantly be like, oh, I want to talk about this again and again and again, and I'm falling apart again and again and again. And especially because, like, I had had one of, I think, probably the most hurtful thing that anybody had said to me was, so I was going to Bible study for my church, and I had missed one of the Bible studies. Sorry, I'm kind of getting off on a tangent, but I'll make my
No,
way
no,
back.
no, yeah.
Yeah, so I had missed one of the weeks because it was like during that 48 hours we were waiting for our second test results. And so I had texted like my little group and I was like, "Hey, I'm not going to be there." Oh, actually it was right after we got our results, the second results. And I was like, "Hey, I had some health problems and I went and I got some lab results that were like not good. And so I won't be there tonight." And they were like, "Oh, I hope you're okay. I hope everything's okay, blah blah blah." Well, then the following week, I had gone to Bible study, and all the ladies in my group, they were like, "Are you okay? Are you okay? What's going on? Like, are you are you sick?" I was maybe they're thinking that I like had cancer or something. I don't know, but they were like, Are you gonna be okay?" And during our study, I just like broke down and I started crying, and I was like trying not to draw any attention to myself, but afterwards, one of the ladies had like come up and given me a hug, and she was like, "Do you want to talk about it? Like what's going on?" And I told her, I was like, "Well, I just had a miscarriage." And she was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." And she's like, "How far along were you?" And I told her, I was like, "Well, I was 5 weeks." And it was like instantly she was like, "Oh, well, I mean that's sad, but like I really feel bad for the women who lose their babies when they're like way farther along." And then just like turned around and casually like went about her day. And I was like, "Oh my god."
Like that was any less real for you.
Yeah, exactly. And I think just like people knowing that I was only 5 weeks along and them being like, "Why are you so sad? You were barely pregnant." So I think on like a daily basis, I think that was probably one of the hardest things for me.
Yeah. That's really hard because you're hearing it from the medical standpoint, right? Of like, we don't even really consider you that pregnant, so we won't even see you for a doctor's appointment. And then afterwards, your support system, your people being like, oh, well, I mean, I really, was it even real though? Like, it's a cluster of cells. Like, what, how can you have a feeling about a cluster of cells? And I'm sure that made you, like, how did that make you, I shouldn't say I'm sure, how did that make you feel? I'm putting myself in your position, and I would imagine that I'd start to kind of feel a little bit crazy, right? Because I'm just being gaslit by the world. Like, is that similar to how you were feeling?
100%. That's exactly how I felt. I was like, maybe I shouldn't be as sad as I am. Maybe I'm overreacting. Just that constant gaslighting myself almost like,
Yeah.
oh, why am I still crying about this when it was so real for me? And even talking to my therapist, she was like, "I'm sure that you are grieving the physical loss of your baby." And she's like, "But it's so much more than that. You're also grieving like all of these expectations that you had, all of these things that you were looking forward to doing with this baby, holding the baby, teaching him how to ride a bike, sending him off to school, like watching your husband become a dad, watching your family like love on this baby. You didn't just lose the baby, like you lost this whole life that you had pictured."
Wow. I just got chills. You lost a whole life. Yeah. Wow. I'm gonna Taylor Swift reference right here. Because I mean I wouldn't be Sam if I didn't. But she wrote a phenomenal song which I'm Not sure why it's not the top off the chart song, in the world. It's called "Bigger Than the Whole Sky," and, we're not sponsored by Taylor Swift, unfortunately, just throwing that out there as a disclaimer.
Maybe one day.
Um, but it talks about the lyrics in it talk about how, "Did I lose you because I didn't pray?" And it talks about the butterfly effect. Are you gone because some butterfly flapped its wings over in Asia? Did I lose you because I didn't pray? You were bigger than the whole sky, and that's a life that I'll never get to see. And so that's what that reminded me of when you were speaking. It's it's bigger than the cluster of cells or whatever it was. Like it's bigger than 5 weeks. It's I love what your therapist said of putting that in perspective. It's a whole life that you lost in a matter of seconds. And
Yeah.
that's devastating.
Yeah. Yeah, and same thing with that butterfly effect. I went back to those thoughts of all those people telling me, "Don't put those negative vibes out into the universe." And so I was thinking, is this because I was so anxious? Did I kill my baby because I was anxious about
Whoa.
killing my baby?
That's so scary. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did I Wow. Sorry, I wanna sit with that for a second. Because I was so anxious, did I kill my baby? So, that's gotta be so many things going first of all, your hormones are off the charts because your body is
Oh, yeah.
getting rid of a pregnancy. So, already, like, physically and dopamine-wise, like, all the chemicals, you're a mess. And
Yeah.
now you're, "Oh my god, am I crazy because I shouldn't be mourning this? Oh my god, am I a murderer? Like, this is something I wanted so bad. Did I literally kill my baby because I was scared? Like, should I be more positive next time?" Like, that just seems that seems such an overwhelming storm to try and pull yourself out of. That's
Yeah.
a lot.
Yeah. And honestly, like, I don't know if I would have made it out of that. I mean, I would have. I'm a strong person. I've been through a lot, but I could not have done that without my support system, without my husband, my family, my family, my in-laws. I just had so much support. And like, even though sometimes people would say things to me that I was like, do you know how hurtful that was? Maybe they didn't, but I could not have done it without my support system.
It's really great. I do wanna lean into that, but I really wanna go back. Before we started recording, you had mentioned something that I think is important to cover. And then I really do wanna talk about your what you just said of the support system and coming out of that cacophony of just misery. But putting a pin, going back, you had mentioned before we started recording that you had created a TikTok video after your
Yes.
miscarriage and the response that that brought in. So tell us first about the TikTok video. What was the content?
So the video was just me sitting at my table, just looking at the camera. I wasn't doing anything, but then the words on the screen was real things people have said to me after my miscarriage. And then it was just different things popping up on the screen of things that people have said to me. And um, I'll kind of go into that. So the one thing that I had already mentioned of, well, that's sad, but I really feel bad for women who lose their babies like when they're farther along. Or um another one was, oh, well, obviously there was something wrong with the babies, so like the baby died because there was something wrong with it. And oh, there must be something wrong with you. You've had two miscarriages, so obviously something's wrong with you. Um and then another one was like, oh yeah, I've had a miscarriage before, but I was way farther along, so it was a lot harder. Just things like that, you know? Oh, you're still sad about that? Or I'm trying to think of some other ones. Um, just like, oh, another one was, well, you guys weren't even trying, so like it's fine. And or like, oh, well, you can always just make another baby. And it's like, yes, we can.
So you can't
But
make that one.
exactly. And also, like, even though we can and we did, and like we made it through that hardship, it's like that doesn't take away from the pain that I was in that moment.
Yeah, that's a lot. What was kind of the purpose of you putting that TikTok out there?
I think for me, it was kind of bringing to light this is what I was going through, and this is a response that I got. Yes, I did have a huge support system, and I didn't mention that in the video because that's not what it was about. It was about shedding light on the hurtful things that people say. And it's not just about miscarriage and myself. I know that in every situation, there's always those people that are, trying to see the bright side. And so they make these comments that are like, oh, well, it gets better. And it's like, yes, it does. But can you just sit with me in my grief for a minute? Like, I don't need you to tell me that it gets better. I don't need you to belittle my feelings. I don't need you to put me in a box. I need you to let me feel. I need you to let me be sad. I need you to let me fall apart. And after I posted that TikTok, I had had some family and friends say to me like, "Oh, that was really hard to watch," or, that was really awkward. That was really uncomfortable. And it's like, yes, I know. That's why I posted it because how do you think I felt hearing all those things, having those people say those things to my face and have to just be like, wow, okay. Like it's supposed to be uncomfortable.
Yeah. Sorry that your comments made you uncomfortable. Sorry for repeating back what you said to me. It made you uncomfy.
Exactly. Exactly. I'm like, yeah, yeah. I was very uncomfortable too, so I'm glad that we're all on the same page.
Yeah. Sit in my boat. Welcome.
Yes. If I go down, you're going down with
You're
me.
going down with me. Well, and I think it's important too to recognize like you weren't trying to be spiteful, right? You said
Right.
you were trying to let people know, "Hey, I this is how I feel. I need to be seen." And
Yeah.
these comments are not making me feel seen. And not only that, but when you actually put them into perspective together with me in the background being like, "Hey, I'm sad." I think it puts a lot more weight into someone who's to see your comment written out in a video or to hear it played back to you, I think is very powerful, right? If someone says something mean to you, it's very powerful to stop and then be like, "Can you repeat what you just said?" And I think that slowing that down for people, it's like, oh, because we can say off the cuff things that we mean to be supportive and then
Right.
don't realize that that was 100% not. So I think
Yeah.
it's important that you put that out there to be like, "Hey, I'm seen, I'm here." And then I'm sure some of the comments, and I say I'm sure because I've heard comments said to you of like, "Oh, well, maybe next time you shouldn't tell people right away." And like,
Yes.
how did that make you feel?
That was hard because I was so excited. And I think for a couple different reasons that was hard because one, I was so excited that all I wanted to do was just, like I said, shout it from the rooftops. I wanted to tell everybody. I wanted everybody to be excited with me because I was so excited. And even though literally 2 days after I had told you guys and the rest of our family, we had lost the baby. But then you guys were able to go through that with me because if we hadn't told you and then we were like, "Oh, by the way, we were pregnant, now we're not." And then it's I feel like you guys don't really get the full effect. Like obviously you're still going to be heartbroken for me. Obviously you're still going to be sad for me, but the fact that like we all got to be excited together and then we all got to grieve together, I felt like that was so helpful for me. And then when we got pregnant again, I had had multiple people be like, "Oh, well, you should probably wait to tell anybody just in case." And it's like, "Are you kidding me?" Like, Just in case what? Just in case my baby dies? Like,
I'm sorry, that's not funny, but I think just the way you said it, like, it's so forward, like, just in
yeah,
case what?
yeah, exactly. And I don't think that everybody has harmful intentions. And even with those comments of, "Oh, you should wait before you tell people." I think some people were honestly just like, "Well, if you wait, then you don't have to it won't hurt as much because you didn't just tell your family. You weren't just so excited and lost it all." But in reality, I lose it whether I tell people or not. I would rather be able to have that support system who kind of has an understanding of how powerful this was, and it wasn't just like a, "Oh, hey, by the way."
Yeah. No, I totally agree with that. And also, I think it brings a level of shame, right? Don't tell people because what if you lose it?
Yeah.
That kind of implies like it's still putting the onus on you, like your body, your fault. Don't
Yeah.
you want to protect yourself from that in case you do something wrong again, right? I think that's kind of without saying it, that's what's being said. And
100%.
yeah, and to clarify, I don't think it's like your body, your problem, your fault. I'm not trying to say that. I'm saying that I think that's the connotation of that sentence of like wait to tell people. But you're absolutely
Yeah.
right. Like I was so like yeah, if you had told me like, "Hey, by the way, I found out I was pregnant. It was early, we didn't say anything, and now I'm having a miscarriage." I obviously would have been supportive, but you're right. Like it's a different level of grief when I slammed on my brakes and cried and was like, "Oh my gosh, like I'm going to be an aunt. I'm going to have a little baby. We're so excited. Let's start canceling trip plans. Let's move everything. This is the best thing that's ever happened." And now that level of grief is different for me too. And
Yeah.
I think that makes it easier for your loved ones to show up for you because people naturally, we respond better when we understand that level of grief. Like, and obviously it's a different level. Like, I didn't lose your baby, but I lost, right? Like a little life that I would, as timeline planning.
Yeah.
And it's a level of grief I can understand, which I think makes it easier for people to show up with. And you have a more of a support system. So, yeah, I'm glad that you guys chose too to still be very open about this pregnancy right off the bat too. And I'm glad that that didn't influence too much your pathway of telling people next time.
Yeah. Yeah, and it did a little bit because, I mean, ultimately, yes, it's my body, but it's our pregnancy, mine and my
Yeah.
husband's. Like, this is our baby. So that was a decision that we had to make together, and he wanted to wait just because for him, I feel like he thought, I mean, I don't wanna say exactly his thoughts because, like, I don't know, but maybe he thought that one of the reasons why it was so hard was because I had to make that call to tell our family that, like, "Hey, we lost the baby, we're no longer pregnant," all these things, which in reality, that was one of the worst phone calls I've ever made in my life. Um, but I don't feel like it made like, I don't feel like I would have hurt any less if I hadn't have told you guys. So, when we got pregnant again, he was like, "I think we should wait at least until we, like, have the first ultrasound," which, because I had had 2 miscarriages, now they wanted to see me at 6 weeks instead of 8 weeks. So, I mean, that was a
So
plus.
now we're being proactive.
Yeah. Yeah, now we're taking it seriously. Now we're like, "Oh, shit." Um, So we had waited until that 6 weeks because, 1, it put us a week past our last pregnancy because we lost it at 5 weeks. So it put us a week past, and we got to see the ultrasound, which it literally was just like a little speck. Like, it does not look like a baby at 6 weeks. The ultrasound tech was like, "There's your baby," and I was like, "Where?" That little speck right there on the screen, that's my baby? Oh my gosh. Looks like dust, but yeah. So
Dust.
So, I mean, it did a little bit affect that, um, but everyone's always like, "Wait 12 weeks, wait 12 weeks." I literally passed 12 weeks 4 weeks ago, and I'm like, "I can't even imagine keeping that a secret for 12 weeks."
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah. So you are pregnant now and
Yes,
baby is healthy. You said
she
you're
is.
4 months. So you did talk about how that loss kind of affected your pregnancy. You did say you're. I'm glad. I guess I should have clarified. I'm glad that you didn't wait like the 12-week time span, right? That everyone like probably tried to pressure you into. But you did say that it did influence some of those decisions on who to tell and how to tell earlier on. Is there anything else that like you did differently with this pregnancy? Anything that influenced how you acted in this pregnancy based on the loss of your last one?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, medically, after we had the second miscarriage, I had to go have all these tests done. And we did find out that I have a blood clotting disorder, which they think that that's what was causing the miscarriages. So medically, there was a lot of things I did differently because now I'm on blood thinners and I have to take all these extra precautions and I have all these medications. But then it's just me with myself. Um, First of all, I don't have as much anxiety with this one. Like, this whole time that I've been pregnant, I never had those feelings of something's wrong, something's wrong, something's wrong. And that's how I felt the first time. So, do with that what you will. I don't know what that means, but I guess maybe something was wrong, obviously. Um so I didn't have that anxiety, like I had a lot more like calm and peace. But there always was and still is. I'm almost halfway through my pregnancy and I still not every time, but sometimes when I go to the bathroom, I'm scared to look in my underwear. I'm scared to look in the toilet. Like it's almost like I'm just waiting for the day that I go pee and I see blood. Or, I'm just waiting for the day when I go to my ultrasound and they tell me that there's no heartbeat. Just like in the back of my mind, I'm just waiting for that. But something I have to continue to tell myself is first of all, bad things happen all the time. During pregnancy, you could have a miscarriage at any point. Then the baby's born, and now you have this human that you have to keep alive. And there's all these outside factors. It's no longer just you and the baby, like, oh, I can't eat this, I can't do this, I can't, whatever. Now it's like, oh, my kid is riding their bike down the street. Oh, my kid's in the car. What if I get in a car accident? Or, my kid is a teenager and they're driving. What if they get in a car accident? And I realized that I am going to be terrified for the rest of my life. So I'm not going to let that fear take away my happiness and my excitement and just all of these beautiful feelings that I want to feel. I'm not going to let the fear take that away because that fear will never, it will always be there.
Yeah, it's a really interesting statement. I guess I had not really thought of that, right? Like you're always going to be afraid. And but I think it's important to not let that fear take away your happiness. Yeah, I really love, sorry, I was just processing kind of out loud what you said. I think that's just very impactful. I like that that's where you're at. I'm glad that that level of peace is where you're at.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's go back to the pin. We'll take it out. The people who you felt were supportive. What were some of the things that people did that helped you?
I think just checking on me. For the first couple days at least, I didn't take any phone calls. I just couldn't talk to anybody. All I could do was cry. But people reached out to me in other ways. Like my mother-in-law, she would bring us dinner. Like all my sisters and my parents, my grandparents, they would text me or, they would call and if I didn't answer, just leave a voicemail or just like little things like that. People being like, "Oh, well, like I'll pray for you." And when I told my best friend, she was just like, "I don't have anything to say. I don't know what I could possibly say to make it any better." And so all I'm going to say is that like I love you and I'm so sorry and I'm here for you. And I think just people like just knowing that people were here and knowing that they cared, because I think sometimes when people go through traumas, we either one want to just make it better, and so we try to make those like, oh, look at the bright side comments, or two, we just like don't talk to them at all because we're like, oh, well, we need to give them space. They just want space. Which yes, I did. I didn't want to talk to anybody. I just wanted to be by myself and grieve with my husband. But that doesn't mean that I didn't want people to try. So I think having those text messages come through, having those voicemails come through, just like knowing that like my family and friends were thinking about me and they were praying for me and like they were grieving with me, that was so helpful.
Yeah, I think a common misconception, right, with people is, oh, well, I didn't know what to say, so I just like didn't say anything. And I think people are so afraid of being that person that says something off the cuff, right, and ends up in a video that they're just like, well, okay, well, if I don't want to say something stupid, so maybe I just won't say anything at all. And I think it's a very easy to just have a go-to response of like, "Hi, I love you." Like,
Exactly.
I think yeah, that's a very good way to, I think, respond to people who are going through something very traumatic. And if you can't relate, if you don't know how to grieve, like if, it's not something you can relate to, your grief response is different, right? You didn't get the slam on the brakes phone call. You didn't drive off the road. You haven't been looking at baby clothes for 2 days. Like, is this, if you are someone out of the blue that's like, oh, I didn't really know that. What do I say? What do I do? I've never been through something like that before. Yeah, I think you're right. A good go-to response just is, "Hey, I love you."
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm here for you. Even I'm sorry, even though sometimes I didn't really know what to say to that when people would be like, I'm so sorry. I Because it's not okay, so I don't wanna be like, "Oh, it's okay." So, I've just been saying thank you. Like, "Thank you, I appreciate that." So but yeah, even "I'm sorry, I love you, I'm here for you." Like, how can I help you?" It's like, "You can't. You can't help me unless you can shove that baby back up in there. You can't help me, but thank you for asking."
Was there anything that people did outside of the words? Like you said, your mom or your mother-in-law brought you dinner. Were there other acts of kindness that you felt were supportive, or did you prefer to kind of just have the words?
Um, Honestly, I think, like, having my mother-in-law bring us food was huge, and Um, especially because, like, my family, like all of you guys, you don't live close to me, and so the fact that, like, we do have somebody close that could bring us dinner, that, you know, could call and be like, "What do you need? How can I help?" Oh, another thing is, so we had the miscarriage in the end of March, and then Mother's Day's in May. We were pregnant again by Mother's Day, but we hadn't told anybody. And my husband, one of his cousins came down to visit, and she had brought my mother-in-law a Mother's Day gift, and then she brought one for me too. And my
Mhm.
in-laws were like, "I don't know how she's gonna take that," because they just weren't sure if it was just gonna, like, bring back all those feelings and I was just gonna lose it again, at Mother's Day dinner. So they were like, "I don't know, I don't know." But she ended up giving it to me anyway, and I just felt so seen because even though I was pregnant again, she had no idea. And so she saw like, "Hey, you lost your baby even though you don't physically have a baby, like you are still a mom. Like you still have that." And like we still recognize that like, yeah, you might not have a baby to love on, but like you still hold a baby in your heart. Like you still have that.
I love that. So that makes me want to ask another question. You had said, I remember, you saying that I can't go back to a world where I'm not a mom. And at the time that she gave you this gift, you said you were pregnant. So you
Mhm.
felt like a mom again. If you were not, like if you were not pregnant, was that something that in between losing your last pregnancy and being pregnant again, is that something that you were able to see for yourself? Like, did you see yourself as still a mom?
100%. 'Cause even coming up to Mother's Day, I had told my husband, like, before we'd gotten pregnant again, I had told him, I was like, "I still want you to, like, get me flowers or something, just something small for Mother's Day." And, um, I'm like, because even though and I'd even told this for him too, being a dad, I was like, "Even though we lost our baby for 5 weeks, we were parents." And if our baby had been born and then, God forbid, died at 2 years old, we're still parents. Like, even though our baby is not earthbound, we are still parents. So it doesn't matter if they're 5 years old or 5 months old or 5 weeks old or 5 weeks in utero, we're still parents. So I think that even if I hadn't been pregnant again and I still had received that gift for Mother's Day, I think it would have brought up a lot more feelings. I probably would have cried a lot more, but I still would have felt that love and I still would have felt just very seen as, like, even though I lost that, like, I'm still a mom.
I love that. Good. I'm glad that you were able to see yourself that way. I like what you said of I'll always hold a baby, and or what your cousin said, right? Of you'll hold a baby in your heart, like even if you're not holding it in your arms. And that's very beautiful. Yeah, I think and here, like right, part of Project Tell Your Story, it's not just important, right, that we're shedding light on that dark part of your story, the stuff that's like, don't talk about it to your 12 weeks or whatever, but also really highlighting the version of you in the chapter of your life that's sitting before us right now. So, what did going back to life look like for you? When did you start having to get back into normal life, going back to your job, going out with people? What did that look like in the very beginning?
So, as a nurse, I only work 3 days a week because I work 12-hour shifts. So all of this had happened on day 2, and then I called out day 3. So I had almost a whole week off, which honestly was so helpful because there's no way I could have gone back to work during that time. Like we've said a million times on this episode, is I was a mess. Um, but I think that, and I'm not chalking up my grief to hormones, but I think that once my hormones did kind of settle, I think I was able to really process what was going on without having just so much emotion and just all of these different feelings, and being able to actually think level-headedly about it and grieve like almost in a whole new way. But um yeah, like going back to normal life, it kind of just slowly happened. So we had gone to my mother-in-law's house and helped her cleaned out her garage one day, and my husband was like, You don't have to come if you're not feeling up to it," but like, he had promised his mom that he would go help her. And I was like, "No, like, I wanna come, I wanna get out of the house. I've just been laying on the couch crying every single day, like, I wanna go." And so I'd gone, and I made it through the whole thing, and then it was like when we had gotten home, I cried when we got home because while we were there, we were looking at all these old family pictures of my husband when he was a baby, and my brother-in-law when he was a baby, and, my mother-in-law when she first got married, and, like, just all of these things, and it just kinda, like, brought up a little bit of that emotion. So it was, like, kind of a timeline. When it first happened, I was a wreck, I couldn't function for, like, 4 days. And then it was like after that, excuse me, every single day I would still cry, but I could actually like get up and leave my house and go do things. And I went to Target one day and then I sat in my car in the parking lot and cried because I walked through the baby section and I was like, why did I do that to myself?
You're like, I know I could have gotten the milk without going by the diapers.
Exactly. And so it was like it was almost like every day I cried a little bit less until one day I had gone a full day and I hadn't cried. And it wasn't because I didn't think about it, because I did, but it was almost like, okay, this happened. Um, it's all past. I'm no longer bleeding, which was a huge thing. I didn't have to like continue to see that. Um, but yeah, it was just slow. It was very slow. It wasn't like one day I woke up and I was like, okay, I'm fine. Every day was something different. Some days I'd be like, it's a good day. And some days I would cry on the couch all day. So it was just a whole week of trying to get through that. And then I went back to work, and that was hard all over again because even though I had like texted my friends at work and been like, "Hey, this is what happened." And I had told my manager because she is also one of my friends, and two, she like had covered my patients that day when I left, so she knew what was going on. So I texted her as well. And then they didn't tell anybody, which is fine. So then when I came back, I had people, because the same day that we had told our family was like, we started telling other people, like, okay, both of our families know. So now we can like tell like our friends and people we work with. Um, and so going back to work, I had to be like, by the way, super awkward, but no longer pregnant.
Hmm.
Yeah, so that was hard, but I think just going back to normal life, it was a very slow transition.
Well, that makes sense. Do you feel like grief still comes back from from your last pregnancy?
Yeah, I think it does. I think it is so helpful that I'm pregnant again and that baby is so healthy and I'm so healthy. Other than my blood clotting disorder that I had mentioned, there's no complications, everything's going well, we've done genetic testing, blah, blah, blah. So it's even though I know that we have a healthy pregnancy, we're preparing for a healthy baby, every now and then grief just kind of resurfaces and it just reminds me of what I had gone through. And of course, I still grieve the loss. Of course, I still grieve that baby that I hold in my heart. But I think at this point, I mostly grieve for myself because I just think back and I'm like, I have so much grace and compassion and love for that person that had to go through all of this so that way we could be stronger, so that way we could have a healthy baby, we could have a healthy pregnancy. So, yes, I do still grieve the loss, but I mostly just grieve the fact that like my past self had to go through that.
Yeah. That really makes me think of the word resilient. What would you describe resiliency as?
I think just like being able to bounce back from something hard.
And do you see yourself as resilient? Like, is that how you would describe current you?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I do feel like I have bounced back from that. I still carry that, but I feel like I'm so much stronger now and I've learned so much from that experience, not just about pregnancy and, all of that, but I learned so much about how strong that I am.
So, what parts of you feel stronger?
I think probably my biggest thing is like I feel like way more inclined to stick up for myself.
Hmm.
Yeah, because I mean, anybody who knows me, I've always just been a peacekeeper. I've always been somebody who lets other people destroy me so that way they are okay. And I think through this process I learned that no, I am a strong person. Like I'm going through all of this pain and you don't get to shove that down. You don't get to silence that. I'm feeling this way, you don't get to tell me that it's wrong. And that's the first time I've ever stuck up for the way that I'm feeling about something.
That is so that's really cool. I love that. I mean, honestly, that was not an answer that I was expecting. Just because I think when you said I feel stronger, immediately my mind goes to, oh yeah, my body, it's so strong. I think just because of the connotation of strength, right?
Right.
So I imagined that you were going to say something like, my body is stronger. I'm just, I'm out here, I'm doing the thing. I'm throwing up pizza all the time and like look how strong I am that I'm still going to go back for the pizza, right? Those things. I love that your answer was, I've fortified my ability to stand up for myself and say my feelings are real. You going
Yes.
back to what you said, like you don't get to tell me that because I wasn't farther along, I shouldn't be sad. And
Yes.
you're now no longer the person gaslighting you. I think that that is that is a big sign of strength. I love that answer.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you for sharing. What's the thing that you're looking forward to most with the next version of you, the next version of your life, like the next steps?
Yeah, I think just continuing to grow that strength of like sticking up for myself and turning it into like being that person that sticks up for my daughter, that tells her like, no, you get to say how you feel. Like if you are having these feelings, you get to express that. Let's not throw tantrums at Target, but like like just like being that person for my daughter of like you don't get to talk to my daughter that way. Like she is a strong independent person just like her mom, and just being able to teach her that like the world is going to gaslight you, the world is going to treat you this way, the world is going to try to silence you, but you have a voice to be heard.
I love that. Well, you'll still probably get the tantrums at Target, but I'm glad too that like you're taking that into this is my lesson and I'm most looking forward to making a strong woman out of that lesson and not just of you, but of your offspring.
Strong women creating strong women.
Strong women. I love that. Strong women creating strong women. That's going to be a soundbite. Right? I guess we'll interview dudes too.
Yeah, I said you can be strong even if you're a guy.
I like that. You can be strong.
Yeah, strong men creating strong men, like strong men creating strong women,
Amen. Let's
strong
just all out
women
here.
creating strong men.
Yeah. Projecting strength. I love it. So
Yes.
we're going to wrap this up. But before we do, is there anything else that you feel you wanted to share?
I do just want to say it feels so good to be able to say all of the things that I've been wanting to say, but also it's hard when somebody's like, better luck next time, and then you like sit them down and you have this whole conversation. So I think it's really empowering to be able to just come on this platform and be like, this is my story and this is how I felt, and like you don't get to tell me how to feel because I'm telling you how I feel. So
Yeah. That's good. Good. So, I mean, that it sounds like it's serving its purpose, right? Of creating knowledge for other people. Like, right, are you going to sit down with 20 people and be like, hey, remember that one time that you said something and this is actually how it made me feel? And then, hey, do you remember that one time? Like, it's almost like you're in charge of like educating everybody in your life so that way you can receive the support you need in the future. And instead,
yeah.
like, here we go. You got it on a platform, a very public platform, and put it out there. And so now people coming to you are going to be able to say, hey, you know what? I maybe think a little bit deeper before I rattle something off next time. And you've also helped people too that are watching this podcast that have no idea who you are, that have never met me, that but do have someone in their life that went through a miscarriage. And they're hopefully going to say, "Oh, all right. Well, maybe let's think a little bit before I speak." Or
Yeah.
maybe you know what? I didn't know what to say and I haven't called them. So maybe I should call them and say I love you. And I think that's great. This story is going to help people in ways that you and I will probably never see. And I think that's really exciting. So thank you for coming on and sharing that and changing the world with your story.
Yeah.
Look, you're one of like the most important people in my life, and I just think that's so
Oh.
great that like this has been something. Oh my God, don't cry. This has been something that I'm very proud of myself. I've only cheered up a little bit a few times. I'm like, breathe, pinch your leg, breathe through the nose, out through the mouth. So don't start now. We've almost made it. But like you are, yeah, one of the most important people in my life, and like I'm so honored to not only share this project with you and like this passion project of mine and move forward, and you are the one by my side doing this, but I think it's so impactful, at least for me and our relationship, to have like the very first things that we're putting out into the world be our stories. And the first interview that I ever get to do was like with my sister Joe, and that's really meaningful. So thank you for
Yeah.
allowing me to have that experience too.
Absolutely.
If you could write a letter to past you, what would you say? And it can be as deep as you want. It can be as quote unquote like silly or insignificant. What would be in that letter?
I think for me, I've actually been thinking about it since like we talked about it before we started recording. I think that what I would say to myself, um, which is probably the thing that I needed to hear the most, especially from myself, was I love you. And this wasn't your fault. And I think also I would just want to tell myself that, you know, we have to go through this in order to have a healthy baby girl. And you will get through this, and then you're going to meet that baby, and it's going to be so worth it.
Beautiful. I love that. Well, that is a wrap for today. I am Sam.
Oh, I'm Joe.
And we are Project Tell Your Story, signing off.
Bye.
Project Tell Your Story is created and produced by your hosts, Sam and Joe. Music composed by Morgan Mold. Logo art by Jordan Dalton. Ready to share your story? For a chance to be featured on our podcast, please reach out to us. Send a brief summary of your story to contact.tellyourstories@gmail.com.
If you or someone you know has been or is currently suffering from a miscarriage or loss of a child, please reach out to www.marchofdimes.org or www.americanpregnancy.org.